Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Evil Within 2 Nightmare difficulty, no upgrades, no keys, and no damage walkthrough. This is Chapter 4, it's called Behind the Curtain, and we're once again going back out into the rather large town area that we were playing around in Resonances the last two videos. And instead of doing all the playing around, we're going to be going immediately to the safe room that's on the opposite side of here, near where the sniper rifle ammunition was. Or the parts to fix the sniper rifle, I should say. And remember the computer that was next to the save point inside of that safe room? How it mentioned it was a pathway into the Marrows, but we couldn't quite do it just yet? We're going to be hitting that computer and we're going to be moving into the Marrows. O'Neill's hooked us up with a gas mask, so you're going to get to do a really janky looking first person section that lasts for about a minute. It doesn't really outstay its welcome, doesn't really have a welcome, it's just kind of goofy. And then we're going to be moving into the next zone, and we're going to be taking on the first encounter of the game that I had trouble with. On my first playthrough, I should say. I knew it was coming, so this is not going to be as different. But this is where the Gemini is going to be, guys. So you're going to hear the music go crazy soon. Boom, just then. So the kick drum sounds. I back up because I can't tell where the threat is. I sit in this bush because I know I'm invisible. I'm looking around, I'm seeing... Do you see it? Just there? Up near my watermark? See it in the tree? It's north of us right now. It's in that tree, not the one to my left now, the one near the white fence. So it's in between 12 and 1 when I was looking north just then, so... I'm looking around, I can't see it. I stand up, I move over here. Do you see it just there? On the left? If you've got a good eye, you'll spot it. If you know where it is, you'll spot it. If you don't, you might not. I come back this way, and it turns out this road has a dozen of the Lost on it. And I think it also has a witch at some point, so I'm going to break these boxes. I'm still looking around because I don't know what's coming for me, and I'm kind of nervous. So I'm not going to break the boxes. How dare you, Chris? How dare you not break the boxes? It's on that tree there. Did you see it to the left? You could see it hanging down like a conker. So I move over here. I see these guys. I'm hoping that something's going to happen and they're all going to leave, because I know that there's a woman in a building coming up and there's a bunch of the Lost that are going to run and try and ambush her, and I was hoping it was these ones, but it turns out it's not. So they're going to stay there and they're not going to move. So I'm second guessing myself right now. This looks like a bad situation. Do you notice how there's a woman with a Molotov over there? If you break the Molotov by either stabbing her in the head or shooting it, she'll drop it and it will splash the fire everywhere. It's directly in front of me now, guys. Look at the tree. Can you hear it just then? You heard its mouth. Above me right now. There it is. See it, Chris. Left, left. There he is. And I finally caught on. I'm like, oh my god. It's in the tree. And right there, I thought it had seen me. But it didn't. So that's why I stand up. I stand up because I shit my pants thinking I've been seen. And in this... Don't go in this this room here. Do not go inside here. It's there. Look at it. On the roof. How cool is that? I'd never seen any of this. I was in a fit at this point. I'm like, Jesus Christ, where was this when I first played? But the good news is you just keep on moving towards the safe room and you'll be fine. And there's going to be one of those smelly women in front of the safe room, so you want to wait for her to move out of the way before you push forward. But when the music stops, you're safe. But how crazy was that? Dynamic level design. I love it. I've never even seen that before until I started recording this. And it's just like when you stream, guys. Whenever you record anything, the weird stuff starts to happen. And of course, there's a body under that car, so be very careful. Of course, I wanted to climb the car. That's exactly what I want to do, game. Beautiful that they let you climb so many things. It's such a pet peeve of mine. Do you know another pet peeve of mine? That whenever you get a resonance, it makes that really loud noise when you're playing a fucking horror game, which is completely silent for the most. So the one thing we really want is for the thing to just suddenly go bing when you're trying to sneak up on something and you're quite tense. It's the worst design in the world, and if you can turn that off in the options, I recommend that you do, because there is nothing worse than holding your breath, sneaking through a dozen enemies, getting by the skin of your teeth, and then shitting your pants on some innocuous noise that all it means is that there's some fucking bullets 5 yards away. So dumb that it makes such a shrill noise. But you don't have to do the resonance here, guys. You can just immediately hit the safe room door. Top up on the coffee if you want to get full HP. And then we're going to go into the Marrows. So this is where PC gets amazing, right? On console, when you touch the Marrow's computer, it puts you into this black zone, and in front of you is a pillar of light, and then there are these weird kind of spectral trees that start blossoming as you move towards it, and you're in a loading screen. You're in a moving loading screen. On consoles, it takes like 30 seconds for that loading screen to fuck off and puts you in the other side. On PC, it takes about 5 seconds. So it's such a difference, and I wanted to keep it in, but it's so short, I might as well just trim it out. Like, it's one of those weird things where it's so much better, the load times on PC, guys, and I don't even have an SSD. I imagine with an SSD, it would be disgustingly beautiful. But that doesn't matter. Onwards and upwards, and this is the first encounter of the game that I struggled with. And I struggled with it because the game is a bitch. And I come up with these strategies, folks, that are amazing. I just do. I'm that good, right? I come up with the best, most amazing strategy in my own mind. And then when I try and do it, I get screwed. Because there's something that I didn't plan on, or there's something that the game does that breaks the rules. And this is one of those sequences. So, on console, it is impossible to climb the ladder after you open the frequency door, because it does a prompt on screen that makes you want to look at the thing behind you, and when it does that, Sebastian stands up and it knocks him off the ladder. So getting up the ladder and getting into the room is tricky as hell, but it can be done. So you finally get up this ladder that's tricky to climb, you get in this room, the door shuts, the enemies have never seen you, have never known where you were, have never had a chance to understand that there's a threat in this room, let alone where it is, exactly where it is, exactly where it is. And what do? Every single one of them climbs the fucking ladder, opens the door, and runs directly around the corner, the blind corner I might add, to where you're crouching in the corner in the dark. It's bullshit. And it's bullshit because every single creature knows where you are. This is Metal Gear Solid 1 when you set off an alarm. And this is not 2000 or was it 99 when Metal Gear Solid came out? Regardless, this is a problem in any video game because it shouldn't exist. We've got to the point now where AI is so sophisticated, the enemy shouldn't know where you are unless they see you. But in this particular section, when these doors open, every enemy literally has some kind of star path that tells them that you're a Gemini, they're a Gemini, and you're going to get dead on, and all your things are going to come aligning, and everything's going to be fantastic, and you're going to join Scientology, you're going to get all the Thetans out of your body, and Lord Zeno's going to come, and you're going to fuck him up. And they know where you are. And it's really frustrating, because they shouldn't, and you can execute him sometimes, but it didn't give me the prompt then. So all we're going to do is lose sight of him and probably bottle him. But suffice to say, this next section, both the witch and all the enemies that spawn, they know where you are regardless of where you are. You can be hidden behind doors in other rooms. It doesn't make a difference. It's really shitty, but there's nothing you can do. You've got to deal with it. So I have a wonderful little exploit that I'm doing right now. You might be wondering, Chris, why are you killing these enemies? The reason is, I can get you a save point here when you're not playing on classic mode, or you can always go back and save if you want to, if you're crazy. But for people who are just trying to get through Nightmare and have no interest in Classic, this is the ultimate strategy for you. And if you generally just want an easier time, this is also a really good strategy. Because when this kicks off, all of these people that I'm killing are going to stand up. So if you kill them before they stand up, there's less people trying to kill you, right? So it just makes sense. But it gets better. We're going to go back into that other room, and we're going to... Do you remember that chest that I didn't open, that's got ammunition in it, that I didn't grab? We're going to grab that ammunition, and it's going to save. And it's going to save all these people dead, so you never have to fight them again. And all we're doing is we're getting rid of one half of the fight, basically, before the fight begins. And it's the best way of giving you the best strategy to take on the room coming up. And the room itself is kind of simple. All you want to do, sit at top of the stairs with a shotgun and knock every motherfucker down that tries to climb it. They cannot climb if you shoot them with a shotgun. And it's that simple. The problem is, there's a lot of them, and do you have enough shotgun bullets? But if it starts going bad, you can always run off the side, drop down, and go around the other side and kite them and do that and get creative. But for the most, this strategy is going to be fine. But there's one person on top of here who's laid down, and if they fall off on the right side, you can execute them as they land. But if they fall off on the other side, it doesn't work as well. So you need to watch where he goes, even though the camera's up your ass and you can't. He falls this way, get directly behind him and stab him. That's going to save you a ton of ammo. You can do this to a lot of the enemies that have to drop down, but sometimes when they drop down, the game doesn't give you the right detection, and you might get grabbed, so you've got to be careful. But that's now every enemy that was going to stand up in this room, dead. So come back over here, and go to the right, and pick up the the information that's inside of the Mobius chest. I say information, it's ammunition. But when you pick up the shells, it's going to save. So, or when you pick up the scrap as well, boom, there's your save point, and that means that we never have to do those guys again. Once again, if you're on Classic, feel free to go back and save in the house when you go through the Marrows, it's up to you. This might be a good place to save, actually, because this is quite a tricky room, but with the shotgun, you're going to be fine, folks. You're going to be... And if you keep an axe at this point, you're going to be even better, because you can just smack the witch with the axe. Or you can skip her, if you want to, because all you really need to do is defend until the door opens, but I wanted to loot everything because I didn't know how good the loot was going to be. But shotgun is on, let's hit the door, and let's immediately climb up there. And I was super curious when I was recording this, because on console, as I've mentioned, when you immediately go to this ladder to the left and try and climbing it, you get to the top and it kicks you off every time. But on PC, it doesn't do that. And I don't know why. I'm not too sure why that is. Maybe on PS4 it doesn't do that, but on Xbox One it bloody does. Because I tried enough times. But match those frequencies and clench your anus because it's about to kick off. But my argument about the point that I was mocking earlier is, this is a section where you should have to fight the enemies, that's okay, I'm fine with that, but they should have to find you first. Have them alert, but not 100% certain where you are. Like right now, everybody has come from a room across the way, and they all know exactly where I am. Why? Why do they do this? It's just not good. But anyway, shotgun diplomacy always wins. He's dead. If you can get crits like that, you're going to be laughing. On that guy, you could try shooting him in the head with the pistol and maybe it would finish him off. But I didn't want to risk it. Because if you don't knock them off, they climb up and then you're in a world of hurt. I think I might try it here, actually. See? That's why. That's why you use the shotgun. Because the pistols are shit. That was on his head, man. But I'll take it. So that's the end of the enemies. And I believe the door over there is going to open at the bottom. And out comes the witch. So look at her. There's no way she can know where we are, but she's going to walk perfectly to exactly where we are and start climbing this ladder. Like, look at her. She's turning with me. And she's going to start sprinting in a moment. Because I'm thinking, maybe I can stealth... Oh, no, she knows. She knows. And then this gets fantastic. Watch this. This is about as good as it gets right now. So we snipe her head on the thing, and we're just going to proceed to shoot her off the ladder, and she's going to keep trying to climb the ladder, and she can't. And we get to kill her with the pistol, which is fantastic news. I shouldn't have even used the sniper rifle, actually. I could have probably done this all with pistol bullets. And then she's dead. And that's the best strategy I could come up with, guys, so hopefully that helps. Because I felt that that room was the first difficult room of the game. Because I was trying to kite them. And I was going in the rooms, and I was getting fucked, and I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, because I was under the impression that I could lose them, and I could not kill anything, and I could save my ammunition. How wrong I was. But run around the room, look for gunpowder, look for anything that you can do to replenish the supplies that you've used, but in the grand scheme of things, we used a bunch of shotgun shells, we've barely used the shotgun, so that's not a problem. We got some shells to replenish them, we can always use more gunpowder, we use some pistol rounds don't mean shit. And we used one rifle bullet. The rifle bullet's probably the biggest casualty of that encounter, and it was totally worth it just to see that bitch fall off the ladder. But now that that's done, I'm going to loot each of the rooms that they came from, and I'm going to proceed to get out of dodge. But I have a wonderful footage of me going in this room under here, and hiding around the fence, round the corner, before the witch spawns, and she comes out of the door like you just witnessed her do, and she follows me into this room, and finds exactly where I am, in this corner, crouched down. Like, it just feels like cheating to me, and I wish it didn't exist, but it does, and you have to be aware of it, and you have to learn to beat it. But that's just a section where they've designed the enemies to know where you are. And that's nothing new, guys, it happens in all games. In fact, every enemy in this game knows exactly where you are, 100% of the time. They're just programmed not to act on it. It's one of those strange things about the computer. The computer knows the game world, it knows the state of the world, it knows the state of the game, it knows everything. And you know that piece of AI technology I was talking about in the last video? About where the stealth sections, they pretend to walk away from you, and then they follow you perfectly, just to keep it tense? All of that, those decisions they make and how they move, are 100% dictated by how you move. You are the composer, you are the conductor of those sequences. And it's done intentionally to make it more interesting. But I come back up here, I pick up the bullets to replenish what we used. I pick up the shells. It gives you 1 shell. Dirty, cheap bastard. If you got that for Christmas, you'd be cutting off that relative like a dead hand. 1 shell? How dare you? But now that we've looted everything, we can push on, and we can get on to the next sequence, which is going to be moving out into a pretty fun area that's going to have our first boss fight, and we're going to skip it. And the reason I'm skipping it is because A, I'd not done it at that point, and I thought it'd be cool to see what it was like, and B, it saves ammunition. So, it's pretty good. But until then, we have to do 2 enemies in this drain area, and then we have to do that goofy first-person sequence. So, I have a fantastic video of the AI here, because I found a great manipulation. When you drop down into this area, because this ladder is apparently so long, these Lost have never thought what the world would be like if they climbed that ladder. And we know, from the last part of this video, that these enemies can climb ladders. But for whatever reason, this ladder's just too strong. This is the expert level ladder. This is the master levels in Super Monkey Ball of ladders. And they can't do it. So if you step on this ladder, he will follow you exactly to where he lost you, and then he'll pretend he can't see you. And then the moment that he turns around, you can press B, or circle, or Q for me, and you'll drop off this ladder, and then you can follow him and stab him in the head. And then the other person you can do the exact same thing to. Because for some reason, when you climb that ladder, you are invisible to them. And I have no idea why. And I was going to make a fail video and put some silly music on. But I made this walkthrough instead. And I've got a lot of interesting fails that I'm probably going to share in a compilation. Because I did an execution to a boss, and I don't do it to the boss. And the boss has stood watching me do the execution, and then he kills me while I'm doing it. I've got an encounter against a female Lost where I blow her leg off and she doesn't fall over, and she's chasing me on 1 leg as if she's got 2, and then she kills me. Like, I've got all kinds of weird shit in this game. Shooting people with a shotgun at point blank range and they don't get shot. And they grab me and I die. So many things. So many things, guys. This game is goofy. It's janky, but it's still a lot of fun. And if you're on the fence, this is probably the most fun game I've played in a few months. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like, I like Shadow of War, but to me, it's such a sequel that I barely feel like I'm playing anything. It just kind of feels like, oh, it's Shadow of Mordor, that's cool. Whereas this feels like a new thing. And that's exactly what a sequel should be to me. Shadow of Mordor is just more Mordor, you know? Shadow of War, sorry. And it's fantastic if you like that. But to me, it's almost like I've played that game before. Whereas this is the complete opposite. There's so much new, there's so much different than the previous one. It's really interesting. But here is the goofy first-person section. You can't do executions in this mode, and you can't use your guns. So what we're going to do is we're going to avoid everything, basically. And because it's kind of smoky down here and kind of atmospheric, you're going to get a couple of liberties you probably wouldn't normally get. Like right now, she would have probably seen me in any other situation. In fact, did she see me? No, she didn't. She didn't see me. She's just got some kind of goofy animations. So she's going to walk around. The moment she walks back to my right, I'm going to climb up and I'm going to go to the left. If you don't know the puzzle here, before we entered this room, there was a map on the wall that gives you instructions of exactly where to go. Follow those instructions and you'll understand the tunnels. The only other enemy in here is going to be another one of those screaming women. Those smelly bitches. I don't know their names. I should really come up with something interesting for them. And she's just going to walk around and we're going to stealth around her. And you're going to get a checkpoint when you get to the bottom of this. Of course, if you're playing on Classic, you're going to have to do this on one run. But it's not a problem. This is one of those sections that once you've done it and you understand how everybody moves, you'll never have problems here again. Because it is so very obvious. And there's a ton of bottles if you need to use them as distractions. So feel free to do that. But keep on moving down here. That's your exit. Remember that door. Very important. And then there she is. Go into cover so that you can get a nice little peek. And you can see your wedding ring as your hand teleports into existence. And then she walks away. And then on the left up there, there's nothing. But to the right is where we want to go. And she's going to go to the left over there. And then we're going to go behind a barrel. But I'm checking up here for loot. Because for some reason, I had it in my head that I could find something over here. That body drops to try and scare you. And then I have to walk back the other way. So I should be standing up about here to get some extra progress. But I don't think I'm going to... Actually, I might be. Am I stood up? I can't tell. Yes, I was stood up. Good lad. So go behind the wooden box here, and she's going to retrace her steps back the path we just witnessed her walk. And we're just going to walk by her, hit the thing, come back behind this box, wait for her to do her thing, go up there again, and then we're going to walk all the way back to that door I told you to remember. Easy, simple, nothing to worry about at the moment. But you might notice that some of the textures in this game are kind of interesting. There doesn't seem to be any option on the PC to mess with texture quality. It's like the textures seem to be one universal quality. There's a lot of other settings, like you can mess with ambient occlusion, you can mess with surface space reflections, you can mess with LOD, and a whole host of other options, but there doesn't seem to be anything directly mapped for texture work. And it's unfortunate because I think the character models in this game look fantastic, but I think some of the textures, especially when you get a bit close, can look a little crappy. And if you're playing this on, is it 1440p, 28? I forget the dimensions for that, but it's 2 something, isn't it? The 1440p dimensions. Your resolution's going to be higher, so everything's probably going to look a little better. But for the most, it just seems like if they could have had maybe a slider for that, it would have been better. And if there is a slider, I must have missed it. Because if you're wondering what my settings are, I've got pretty much everything on high or ultra. And everything that I don't like I've turned off. I've put my shadows, I think, on medium, because I wanted to see if it made a difference with the frame rate, but it didn't, and I forgot to change it back. Because at the very beginning of the game, during the fiery house, the flame rate, why am I saying that? The flame rate, my words today, terrible. The frame rate at the beginning was fluctuating between 60 and 72. And I was looking for the option to put it at 144 refresh rate, because I wanted to see if I could get, 144 frames. Because if you've never played with a refresh rate of 144, it makes everything better. And if you can play with 144 frames while you have that kind of hertz, it just makes everything better. Your aim's better, everything about it's better. The game feels wonderful. But there doesn't seem to be an option. The only option I could see is when you want to pick frame rate, you can pick 30, you can pick 60, you can pick half of your monitor, or you can pick based on your refresh rate. And I have a 144Hz monitor, so I picked that, and it still gave me the same frame rate as it did when I pick it on 60. When I put it on any other option except for 60, sorry. Because when I put it on that, it put it to 72. And obviously 72 is half of 144, right? But when I put it on based on my refresh rate and then half of my refresh rate, I kept getting the same thing. It would never go higher than that, and I don't really know why. I feel like I should be able to run it at higher frame rates than that. I've got a GTX 1070. Maybe it's an option that I didn't pick. Maybe the game, maybe you need to get something that somebody's created to enable the game to run that high, or maybe you have to adjust it in the configuration folder somewhere, in the INI folder. I'm not too sure. But I just decided to cap it at 60 because I felt like it was probably for the best instead of having it fluctuating higher. And I found that when I was watching with the performance metric on, the game definitely goes between mid-50s and 60 on certain moments, but it always seems to be the moments you don't expect. It's never during the combat, it's never during like things that look like they'd be particularly heavy, it's generally in weird parts. And I don't know if it's an optimization issue, or maybe I've got the wrong settings on and I should have tweaked something, but I came from playing this game at 30 frames per second, and anything feels better than that, so it really wasn't an issue to me. I was having a lot of fun. I did notice a couple of drops, and you will too if you've got a good eye, but it never affected me the same way. And I don't know if it's because I've just come from playing a ton of Bloodborne, and Bloodborne runs like complete shit, so I really wasn't being too picky, but I saw Carcinogen streaming last night, and I think he had the frame rate was on 91 for him, and I think it might be limited to where you were, because I noticed that when I got out of the fiery area and I got into the open world area, the frame rate just went solid. So it might be fluctuating because it might limit the frames of certain areas, because a lot of games do that, and I don't really know why. You can be in a certain specific part and the frame rate might be locked at a certain point, or it might not be able to go to the full 144, and then you go to the next room and then the frame rate just blips up. And a lot of games have it in a lot of places, so maybe it's just a case of that. Maybe if I'd have waited to get to the actual gameplay part, then the frame rate would have gone much higher than 72, but it seemed to be where the game wanted to be. And the game is not a resource hog as well, guys, if you're curious on PC. I was playing the game on like high and ultra settings, getting pretty much a consistent 60 frames, and I was capturing 1080p 60 frames per second with OBS, and I wasn't even getting over 40% CPU usage, and I only have an i5. I have a 3rd generation i5. Of course, my OBS has been used by my graphics card, so it's been done on the hardware side, which explains why, but everything was running pretty well. Considering this game came out this year, I think that's pretty awesome. You know, when you consider fucking Black Ops 3 runs like shit, no matter what you do. So, touche on whoever made this PC version, if it was Bethesda, or if it was, you know, Tango, or somebody else. Whoever did the PC version, you know, it's way better than the original game's PC version, because the PC version for the original game was kind of rough. Not gonna lie, folks. But that's enough of the nomenclature of the Master Race. We're back in the into the crossbow section of upgrading things and buying things, and not upgrading things because we can't do that, but you know what I mean. So I buy some sniper rifle rounds with my gunpowder, and I fashion some smokers, fashion some explosives. I'm going to fashion a shock bolt. And at the moment, we've got a decent amount of resources we can rely on. I'm quite happy with where we are as far as our inventory goes. And then we can go out, and it's going to trigger the end of the mission, and it's going to be the next chapter. And then in the next chapter, we're going to be taking on a creature that I believe might be called Bizarro, but I only saw that on somebody's thumbnail. I'm assuming they know about that more than I do. Oh, and this section right now, guys, it wants you to go and sit in the chair and do your upgrades. And I did go into the chair, and I immediately got out of the chair, but instead of showing it, I'm just going to trim it out and do this. So there you go, you don't have to see that. But if you're worried about, you know, the upgrades and everything, don't worry, you do not have to buy one this time. That was the worst thing that the game did on Evil Within 1. When it put you in the chair, you had to buy the ability to use the chair, and it didn't count as an upgrade, but it bloody looked like one. So I spent like 15 minutes searching the internet, trying to find out whether or not I was voiding what I was trying to do with that game to make that walkthrough, and it turns out you have to do that, so luckily enough it didn't do that. Earlier on in the walkthrough as well, guys, I might have mentioned that there's no trophy for doing what I'm doing, and what I meant by that was the not taking any damage and the no upgrading stuff. But it turns out that, of course, there's a trophy for Classic Mode, and Classic Mode does have the no upgrades stipulation. So technically, there is a trophy for doing it, so there are going to be people trying to do it, so hopefully some of these strategies can help you out if you're having trouble. But the hardest thing about that mode is going to be having the patience to replay large periods of gameplay. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.